Sure. And I understand it. I would tend to agree with you. I think that human interaction is a critical part of development, and it's not to say that people, like, I know people that have been homeschooled and they function well in society and they're good friends. But I agree with you. I think one of the unique things about the arc of human history is that until very recently we weren't really able to isolate. We had to function as communities. We had to work together to share resources and opportunities, and you could argue about economies and all that stuff. That's another conversation in itself. But the reality was it was survival. So even 100 years ago, it was a lot more difficult to live, to avoid disease, and so people had to work together. And people who were outside of the box or tended not to play by those rules were either rugged or individualists that survived on their own, and became those almost antisocial folks, or they just didn't make it,
Right.
And so, I mean, I did a paper at George Mason, when I went back to school for my master's about, an alternative view about the Civil War and about just like the idea of the South. And we've always had that idea sold to us that, it was all based on slavery. And I was curious about that because I had this really radical professor that was like, he was pushing an idea, and that the world was tilted a certain way. And regardless of that, I always take the opposite point of view because I'm curious. I want to know more about the mentality. And so I read I didn't read the whole thing, but it was a huge book about kind of the idea of the South and what it sprung from. But one of the things that stuck with me was the people that moved here from England or Germany or wherever, when they got off the boat there, they basically, some of those folks put whatever they could carry on their backs, and maybe a horse, and went out and came into Charleston and headed into the bush, into the swamps, and carved out a life, And so there are people that live, and it's not just Europeans, it's Africans who are already here. And, like Dismal Swamp down there at the Virginia, North Carolina border, you had black communities that were like in some of the most godforsaken places on earth that people thrived in because they escaped and were able to have a life in a community away from, the scourge of slavery and oppression. And so, and I think there are people in the world that don't want to be with other people, they want to live off the land. They want to have their own life, have their family. And so it just kind of opened my eyes to the rugged nature of certain people that have that individualism, that have the courage to go out and face the world on their own, and there's something to be said for that, because you can't make it in the swamp in Louisiana and not be a hardy person, and you got to be smart. You got to be resourceful. You got to be strategic. All of those things that we talk about in education, people say, oh, they're rednecks, they live in the woods. No, they're not. I mean, their families fought to survive for generations.
That's true.
So
and
that's
they're not become part of the food chain in the process.
Right. Watch out for alligators, man.
Yeah, there's stuff down there that will eat you.
So, and that's just one photograph of a much larger issue. But you can always go look at something and you have the courage to do it and maybe learn something that you didn't know. And that was one of the things that I thought was really important to recognize, is that just because people came over here didn't mean that they didn't like black people or didn't like people. They just wanted their own space to make their own choices. And that's kind of what America's founded on. And, what I try to teach kids is that those choices have consequences and they have to take the community into consideration, right? We owe the community and our general well-being to the fact that we're part of a living, breathing organism that includes more than one person,
Right. Yeah, how about that?
we wouldn't have survived without it,
Right.
So to deny it, like the Paul Ryan, the Ayn Rand idea of it, and individualism, that's the biggest issue I have. Because Paul Ryan and Ayn Rand wouldn't have existed without the community,
Very true also. Very true.
they wouldn't be here because we would have died as a species. I mean, that's my general. I'd posit that theory. You got 10 guys living, a mile apart, and then a bear comes and eats them all, and then it's all over.
Yeah, bears gonna pick them off one by one. But
and the only reason that didn't happen was they're like, "Hey, man, we got to get together, bro. We got."
Yeah, you see that in there?
Larry,
they got Billy Bob,
and Henry. There's only 7 of us left. We got to kill this dude, right?
Yeah, right.
That's how it goes down. That's the reality. Yeah. So that idea is applied in a lot of different ways in the communities now, but they're not always healthy.
That's it.
And so the challenge is, how do we teach people to be more patient with each other and try to be, that's my goal every day as an educator, is to teach kids what we've learned and what we can do better, and challenge them to think for themselves instead of just believing what people tell them or what they see on TV or what they hear from politicians, because you have to be able to filter and understand and explore to learn more about the truth of the world as opposed to what somebody says the truth is.
Trying to say a little free thinking.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's all the things, really. My colleague said yesterday, learning is all the things. Right. If you do all those things, you have a much better shot at having a healthier community, a healthier planet, a healthier family, everything you need is there for you. And so that's my goal going forward, is to really push that idea. And you can call me a hippie or whatever you want, but I really believe that. And the most damaged communities can speak to that, and it doesn't matter. They're all damaged communities. They're everywhere. Nobody has an exclusive right to misery and suffering and challenges. So we have to get past that and stop treating ourselves like we can't handle it, because we have the capability to send people to the moon and explore the stars. There's no reason that we can't settle down and find a way to work through some of these problems, like what books to read and, who should run, the county commission road services. And it's getting a little crazy. It's getting a little crazy. So,
one thing I constantly tell people, and that is, the world's a tough enough place, and the world would be a much better place if everybody was just a little nicer to each other.
I agree. Right. It's a great rule. Just be kind. Just be kind. It'll go a long way. So.
Right. Circle back around to you performing. Are you still doing like the, I don't want to say like the private stuff, but like the more like individualized performing, like because I got some footage of you that we did back in February. I believe it was down at the Manassas Bar and Grill or Inn or something like that.
Yeah, City Tavern, I think.
City Tavern, yeah. So, I finally got the issue with the video with that fix. So we got to get some of that out for you if you like.
Sure. Well, I appreciate it. Life is good musically. I had a good summer. I probably played about 45 shows.
Wow.
I've been playing with a conga player for some of those shows. It's a good friend of mine. He's a really, really good drummer. And he just kind of brought a little depth to what I was doing. And I know that you're a bass player, and I had another guy that's doing some open mics with me that really wants to get together and put some music. So I think the calling to get a group back together is kind of coming to me. I haven't done cover band work for a while. We're all older and got kids and sports and things like that.
So right, it could be a little challenging.
But the other thing as a teacher is like, I'll never complain about the benefits of my job and the pay. But a lot of people, aren't in the situation I am with me and my wife. My wife is the breadwinner of our family. She makes twice the money I do, and that's just the reality. And I don't mind that. Like, my people might have a problem with that, but at the end of the day, my son's right on time, man. He's like, "Let's go, Daddy."
Dad's time to go. Huh? So, in terms of playing out, and I totally get it. It could, as we get older and trying to, do things with other musicians and stuff like that. I've done some stuff with some guys who were, I guess, around our age. They kind of reconstituted. Some members from a couple different bands. So I did a couple of their shows, actually recorded their shows. So those are actually on the channel. I see those links, and actually shot my first music video and produced it for some guys I know also. So Yeah, next time you got a show that's not too far away, let me know, and I'll come out and we'll put something together for you, and I'll be sure to get some of the other content out as well.
That's great. I appreciate it.
All
Thank you,
right.
man. Yeah, I'll let you
Well,
know, Jojo.
Chris, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on.
It's my pleasure, Jaja. I appreciate what you're doing. I think these kind of conversations are important, and I'm flattered that you gave me the opportunity to do so. We'll do it again soon.
Okay, you're welcome. You have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, brother.
All right, take care.
All right, brother.
No time for the manifest I'm leaving here tomorrow.